Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Pass the Noise podcast. We're just holding an open forum discussion. We thought some topics. We invite you to join in either in the comment section or using the call-in link that I'll be providing throughout the broadcast. You can use that to hop on. We just love to hear your feedback, your questions, your comments, whatever feedback you care to give. So we thank you for joining us, and we're just looking forward to having a great conversation with you. My name is Elder Michael Hightower. I'm your co-host, joined as always by Apostle T.B. Walker. Apostle, how are you doing tonight?
I am fantastic.
Good.
Excited about unwrapping some of the stuff that we've got on the table, on the
We've
docket
got
to deal with today.
Yeah, we've got a couple of topics we want to deal with today. Tom Brady and Giselle Bundchen's divorce. We're going to deal with conspiracy theories and who knows what else. Maybe we'll deal with some other topics, but there's a lot even in those two topics to really tackle. And there's a lot going on in the world. I mean, you got Russia continuing to bomb Ukraine, and then I guess one of their missiles missed and it hit Poland,
Right.
which is a NATO member. So who knows what that's going to bring? So I'm seeing press conferences and this and that, and who knows what's going to happen. Biden was just meeting with the president of China about a variety of different things. So I mean, the world is a very small place, and one little thing can really set things going in who knows what direction. Like it just seems all very tenuous, but that's kind of the world we live in. It's kind of a tenuous situation we got going on here.
Well, like you said, there's what's going on in Poland and what's happening in China. January 7th, I'm going to be in a play. So when you look at I mean, you talk about like world-changing events.
Yeah.
Because I want to give a shout out to Brother Omar Rashadi, wrote a play, and I'm going to be in the play January 7th. And then I'm just when you look at it, and I kind of throw that in there. It's kind of a shameless plug, but
plug
listen,
away.
Truth is, we are really in a time of change, a time of transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Relationships that are being forged that were not forged before, and alliances are breaking up that were had before. So the world that we're going to see in the next 5 years, next 10 years, geographically is going to be different. There's going to be Europe is going to have new territory, and I guarantee there's going to be new lines drawn.
Yeah.
In the next 10 years, 5 to 10 years, there's going to be new lines drawn, and what's in the history books right now is going to be dramatically different in the next 10 years.
No, absolutely. And we've got a comment already. This says, are you really going to be able to play January 7th? No, tell us about it.
Yeah, Six Strangers. It's
Okay.
It's going to be at the Wilmington Music School January 7th. My first rehearsal is going to be this Thursday. So, I will be officially a thespian Thursday. You still can reach me, my number. I don't have an assistant yet. But yeah, I'm going to be in a place. So I'll keep everybody posted, on it.
But, that's cool. I mean, that's
new things. I think even
this
with Pass the Noise, this is it's about new things. I think we're just in a world where we're able to kind of express ourselves in so many different ways, and this is a way, a creative way to really begin to kind of talk about some issues in the world and to give people an open forum to really be able to now interact, because that's what this whole internet is. That's what it's really all about.
Right.
There's one of the greatest uses for it.
Exactly. Absolutely true. Before we get into the meat of our topics, we're going to. This is kind of ancillary, but sort of on point. Just the midterm elections, which appear to still be going on. I mean, I can't believe that they're still counting votes 7-8 days later.
Right.
And that sort of has the potential to feed into conspiracy theories, which we're going to get into more later.
Absolutely.
But this is the kind of stuff that sort of feeds those things. Like, why is it taking them a week to count the votes? What are they doing behind the scenes? Like, this just kind of feeds that whole thing. And I can't think of any good reasons, to be honest with you, why it would take that long to count votes. You knew when the election was coming. You knew when it was. You knew roughly how many people were going to vote. I don't get it. I'm not saying there's anything nefarious going on. It could be just good old-fashioned human screw-up. But it's still to me it looks bad, and it's not good.
Well, absolutely. And like you said, I mean, this is the fodder. This is this is the tinder that's needed for the kind of fires that we're going to have. Listen, I think I've been in a predictive mode, and I'm kind of predicting the fires. Now, the question I think really is going to be how they're going to start. Where the matches are going to be, really lit. But I suspect that, the gasoline has already been poured. And this is really just another place for both sides.
Yeah.
And not just, Republicans and Democrats, but it really now just makes America a suspicious, skeptical universe. That's really what we're going to become. When our elections really don't go off without a hitch, which is kind of the hallmark of America. Oh man, I mean, that's, we're really kind of getting into banana republic stuff here. This is, third world where, I'm not going, and there's a coup, and some guy, who's got a bigger army decides, no, I think I'll stay as a prime minister.
Right.
We're really kind of in that spot where we're nearing that. Our democracy still has its, its boundaries and all the things are in their places, but you can really begin to see that people don't trust this system anymore.
And you can see really how easy it would be to corrupt it. It's not that hard. I mean, it's not that you got to perform some Herculean task to corrupt the system or to do something that would throw things off. It's not hard. It's not hard at all.
Trump tried it, right? Yeah. If I could just get a few people to
cast
fake ballot, just to be able to just say it. They're not going to check. Just say it was given to me. And so, it's really just that easy. Democracy, we really walk a tightrope here because it's very delicate and very easy to topple, and it requires truthful, honest people at the helm. And when you look at what we have right now, this is just a recipe, not for democracy, but for anarchy. This is like, don't go get a copy of the Constitution, get an AR, get an AK-47.
Yeah, it really is. Just like, pick up some arms and let's just go shoot it out. I mean, you got to fight for your whatever, whatever side you're on, fight for your side. Just crazy. But I'm sure we'll be talking about this, in future episodes. This whole the way that our elections are going, and now that Trump is back in the picture. And he threw out something about China might have interfered in the last election. So it's not gonna end until it ends. It is what it is. Moving on, this may seem like a strange topic for us to be covering, but we here at Past Noise, we cover everything. So Tom Brady and Gisele Bündchen's divorce finalized a couple of weeks ago, I believe. And they're a high-profile celebrity couple. The definition of high-profile celebrity couple. They're rich, they're famous, they got, to the outside looking in, have everything. There's no reason for them to be unhappy about any part of their lives.
Right.
But in the end, money and fame don't negate human wants, right? Human longing. Like, I want this from my mate, or I want that, or I can give you this, but I can't give you that. That money can't buy you any of that. Money can't buy you, being able to connect with your spouse 10 years in, 13 years in, 15, 20 years in, however many years you have. Money can't do that. Another 8-bedroom house can't do that. Another Maserati can't do that. Those are things that are beyond money and physical things. Those are down to the people, the people involved.
Right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And so listen, we shouldn't be shocked necessarily that they got a divorce, but I think it's the shocking reason why.
Yeah.
They got a divorce. We're not unused to high profile couples dissolving right in front of our faces. So we watch them fight. We saw Amber Heard recently with Johnny Depp. That was kind of live and direct for us. So we're used to that. But I think this one is a little different because this is really a person openly making a declaration for something else other than their marriage. And, marriage is really kind of, going down the tubes in America as it is. But it is really, really shocking to see the reason why this is going down the tubes. And I suspect that what you see, and we'll get into that, I'm sure, but what you see with Tom Brady and the choices that he's making, I suspect that you're going to see that that's really just a reflection of, how we think and what the thinking is in America. I think that people can also hate it and not like it and think that it's horrible because we can see what it is in our faces. But at the end of the day, people are still in some ways making the same choice, just not with the same spotlight.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no allegations of abuse. There's no allegation
Right.
of affairs. There's no like he was using drugs. He's gambling money. But there's none of that. It's just like he wouldn't choose. He chose hooping or football over me. Like, and that's what it really came down to. Like, he didn't give me enough of him to make me want to stay. That seems to be sort of the crux of their issues. And we have a clip. Candace Owens talking about this situation. I'm going to play the clip and then we'll come back and we'll discuss.
Okay.
I agree with some of what she says, but I disagree with some of it as well. So
it's very sad to me that it appears, at least, that being given the option to have had everything he wanted, to have had the amazing career he wanted, to have accomplished things that most people will never know. Who knows when Tom Brady's record will be broken? But despite having everything, the perfect life, quite literally the model wife, that he's unable to do something that is selfless. What marriage takes is selflessness, right? You have to renew that commitment to a person every day and say that I am not the bigger person in this relationship. Sometimes it's you having to remove a little bit of yourself. Sometimes it's your partner and spouse who has to remove a little bit of themselves so that you can have this union, so that you can stay in sync. And it seems that when this came to Tom Brady, when he had an opportunity to say, thank you so much for being a wonderful wife, thank you so much for being a wonderful mother, and thank you for allowing me to have this career, I am now going to step back. He changed his mind. And it's understandable that she feels this way.
I suspect I'm going to combust here, just the idea that I even agree with Candace Owens at all. I'm not sure how the night's going to go. Check over a little bit later.
I don't know if Candace listens to our show, but
she should.
She talks enough. She talks enough that eventually, I guess you'll agree with something.
Right.
She's always talking about something, but I agree overall. I mean, when she's talking about marriage and what it takes to have a successful marriage, I agree with her. But I think there's an element that she left out that we don't talk about, which is you have to know who you're going into business with. And so Tom Brady's the same person he was when she met him. When she met him and they got married, he had already played 9 NFL seasons. That's like 3 times as long as the average player.
Right.
So he's already shown that he's something of a nut. Like this guy's 30-something years old. He's gotten up and eating a certain way and going to training camp and putting his body through all this stuff. So there was something about him that was different that she liked. Like she liked it when that focus intensity was on her. But when you're dealing with somebody who appears to be obsessive and compulsive, at some point their focus is going to shift to something else. And when they're focused on that, they're going to be there, locked in, totally focused, and unable to do all the other stuff that you think that you want them to do. Like she's expecting him to at some point, this dude's got to slow down. He can't want to play football at 45.
Right.
He can't possibly be running around with guys 20 years younger than him. He can't. And that's he's done. He's done. He's really done. And I think that part of her didn't understand him. And while I agree with what Candace Owens said, if you put Tom Brady into that, then that's somebody other than Tom Brady. That's Pete Brady. That's Sam. That's not Tom Brady. In order to be Tom Brady, you have to do the things that he's done. I mean, to be that, if that's what you want to be, and clearly that's what he wanted to be.
Well, I mean, think about it. When she met him, right, he's become this Tom Brady, right? The truth of the matter, he was a Tom Brady, which was a great, a stupendous athlete, right? Mm-hmm. And when she met him, Tom Brady was a great athlete, but not at a scale that was off the charts, right? Not at a scale that was inhuman, right? Tom Brady had a great career, so there was no way to know that he would be the nut, right? But and there was no reason to even believe that he would be the nut, especially if the choice is, well, you know what, your family and me. That choice wasn't there. So everybody can go crazy when the choice isn't there. But once the choice is there, as men and make that choice every day, I'll have to choose my family over this. Does it now? Are we talking about the sports nut? Or are we really now having to look at the man? Because the sports nut, there's sports nuts out there right now in every sport that have made this very same decision and said, I spoke with my wife and my family, and we're going to hang it up, and that are as nutty as Tom Brady, right? Maybe not as successful, but just as nutty. But they have had the presence of mind to look and say, I made a promise. I was looking at an article. And Tom Brady broke the promise about even a vacation, because the last vacation that he was on, it was, I promised Giselle this vacation because I hadn't had with her for 20 years. Now I'm not rich, right? I'm not independently wealthy. I have vacationed more than Tom Brady. How can that be? So when you really look at that, I think that's really the nut is not the football player. The nut is the man. The man really didn't value the family, because if they split up, which they have, isn't there going to be damage to those children?
Yeah.
That he is really and looking and saying, listen, me not being in this house, there's been damage. Me divorcing my wife and her being in Costa Rica, there's going to be damage, right? So, but football, one more ring, it's worth it. That's a pretty serious decision for self. That's a vote for Tom. Over them.
Yeah. Absolutely. Over, in essence, over his family. And he made some interesting comments. I'm going to put them up on the screen.
Okay.
About this. This is 2 years ago. And this is 2 years ago. He's saying there was a couple of years ago, she didn't feel like I was doing my part for the family. She felt like I would play football all season and she would take care of the house. And then all of a sudden, when the season would end, I'd be like, great, let me get into all my other business activities. Then we get into my football training. I had to check myself because she was like, I have my goals and dreams too. So it's not like he didn't know.
Right.
And this was the issue. But it, I think for him, that's just, I think that's just what he was. This is who he is. And then she made comments earlier this year. She said, obviously I have my concerns in 2022. This is a very violent sport, and I have my children, and I would like him to be more present. I have definitely had those conversations with him over and over again, but ultimately I feel that everybody has to make a decision that works for them. He needs to follow his joy too. She also said, I've done my part, which is to be there for Tom. I moved to Boston, and I focused on creating a cocoon and a loving environment for my children to grow up in and to be there supporting him and his dreams. Except that's not really what he really wanted. Like you can create something for somebody that you think that they want, but that's not what they want. They want something different. And he said he wanted. He just said in that first set of comments that when football season over, I get right into the next thing that I'm obsessed about, and then I get right back into football. Like it's a pattern. Like to break that habit would take effort that he just wasn't willing to put in.
No doubt about it. But obviously, when he said at the end of that, he said, but I have to check myself, right?
Right.
Which means that he's made the commitment. Remember, he said it. So it wasn't, right. It's kind of turned out that like, oh, yeah, Tom Brady's a jerk. I didn't know it, right? So, if you marry a guy, right, who's a workaholic, right, but you don't have any children. You have a child with that guy, and then that child has life-endangering heart surgery, and then they have to be flown to Zurich. And then you're like, I've got the gaming, convention this week, and I love gaming. Now, that's the first time you kind of see that, okay, now this guy is not just a workaholic. Because, I think, again, Tom Brady doesn't love the game more than Michael Jordan. He doesn't love the game more than Wayne Gretzky. At the end of the day, I'm not sure that he's got a greater love and a zest for winning than a Kobe Bryant. But all these guys have made sacrifices for their families. All these guys just got off the pedestal at one point and decided, you know what, my wife, my children asked me to. I wanted to continue, but they asked me to. I thought I had at least one more year on the skates. But my wife said, Wayne, come on, cut it out.
Yeah.
15 seasons enough. And you know what? I said, okay. So now, unless Tom is some special Martian athlete, I think the reality is we're seeing the caliber of man underneath that football persona, that he's a great football player. But the caliber of guy, I think, is forever going to be tarnished by this. But you know what? In the world that we live in, I'm not sure that matters. that's a truth. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's still going to be the Tom Brady parade. The Buccaneer fans are going to, they don't care. I think they'll be glad. Like, listen, kick her to the curb. Thank you, Tom. We love you. We'll marry you. We'll be your children.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting, he chose. I mean, he's been very honest that this is what I chose.
This is what I chose.
This was my choice. I could have stopped playing football. He had like a deal with ESPN to do games for like $100 million. So he didn't have to keep playing to make money. I mean, what acting or modeling place wouldn't hire him? So I mean, he had options. He chose this one. I mean, this is what I'm choosing. Like, and she's leaving. So I was like, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So interesting. Very interesting. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's much more to say about that, but it's an interesting conversation just to have about, that whole scenario. Because like you said, he's not the only one, but most guys figure out at some point, if I don't leave the game, she's going to leave me, and they leave the game, but not Tom.
Not Tom. But you know what I mean? I think, again, it's career. I think that, it's been looming larger and larger. And I think that in our society, as our careers are so, they overlap into our lives. They're at that we're working at 9 o'clock. We can take it home. We're involved. And as companies have been very skillful and been able to get us really involved in their next step. Whether the merger actually happens, and you got guys really just, burning the midnight oil to make sure that the division is sold correctly. And so in a lot of ways, what Tom Brady is doing is being done all over the country, where people are looking and saying, but to get to the next level, if it takes jettisoning these things that we used to hold dear, I'm willing to do it. Yeah. This is just straight end time life that we're seeing. We're just getting a chance to see it with Tom Brady on, a larger scale. We're seeing, 50 Cent fighting with his son.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
But here's the thing, 50 Cent is also clowning his son. So the same way that 50 is very creative and using memes, and we're seeing a man, and this is father against son. And so the idea that relationship is not sacred enough to, like, let me take that off the air. If I'm gonna make a meme, let me make a meme about my enemies. But like I'm gonna clown my son. I'm gonna get like 2 million views laughing at my son's head. I got made that guy. So I mean, it's kind of crazy when you really think I can actually choose this fame and fortune and this over family. That's really what we're seeing, and what's going to create the chaos that we live in. Because what's the damage that's going to happen to the Brady kids? The fallout from this, we'll be shocked and look and say, like, I mean, with all that money, like, why did he go into drugs? With all that money, how could this one go into crime? And we really just look and say, well, I guess, money is the substitute for dad. Money is a substitute for a role model in terms of what a love relationship looks like. No, the damage is we really just don't even know what it's going to be. And I think that's the thing that makes this relationship, and it's like not just a celebrity thing, but I think we're really getting a chance to see that men and women are choosing, to really dissolve something that really has societal ramifications.
It will be interesting to see what the effect on the kids is, because there will be one we may see or we may not, but it'll be interesting to see if there's public fallout from this.
Right.
And you hope not, but you have to wait and see.
Right.
Yeah. So switching gears to another topic we plan to discuss, which is conspiracy theories. So last week and the week before, we actually talked about Kanye and Kanye West and Kyrie Irving in the comments or the social media posts they made regarding Jewish people that were considered anti-Semitic. One of those themes was just like the Holocaust didn't happen, conspiracy theory, and Jews kind of control everything, the banking system, another conspiracy theory. So when it comes to those types of things, especially when it comes to finance and banking, things you can't, things that affect us every day, it seems like we just love a good mystery. I mean, we love not just who did it, but why did they do it? How did they do it? Who did they do it? I mean, we just want to know everything. Like, we don't like not knowing stuff. So it kind of just feeds into that. But I think in general, when you think about conspiracy theories especially in our culture, You think about secret societies, right? You think about these
Right.
hidden groups of people like the Illuminati, and you sort of put them up there and say, yes, the Illuminati did this, and they're responsible for that, and they're controlling everything. One of the reasons why Jewish people don't like those tropes is because they're considered to be part of that group of Illuminati who are controlling everything from this shadowy place in the background. But I think if you're going to talk about the essence of a conspiracy theory, you have to really go back to the very first conspiracy theory, which is when the serpent convinced Eve that God was holding out on her. Like, God's not telling you everything. Like, there's things you could know if you just eat that fruit. There's things, there's a secret, and that sort of got, wait a minute, I can know something that I don't know. He didn't tell her, of course, that, well, there's a reason why he doesn't want you to know, because it's not good for you. Everything you want to know is not necessarily good for you. She found it the hard way. But it's just interesting that that's sort of the blueprint for every conspiracy theory after that. Is, I got a secret. You want to know this. You're going to want to know, even when it's something that we don't need to know. And no, I really don't want to know. But that's sort of the blueprint. Is like, somebody's holding out on you, and I got the answer.
Sure. And, I think that one of the things that, we know a lot about life, but there's a lot about life we don't know. Yeah. And I think that we're haunted. We're not soothed by what we know. We're haunted by what we don't know. I mean, all you need is just like, it's like a Christmas thing, right? I mean, you have the run of the house. It's just like, don't go in my room. Don't go in that. I've got something in there, but don't look in there. And so with the whole run of the house, we are naturally inclined to know. And I think that what Satan recognized was that even in the innocence and the perfection of man, there was something man didn't know, right? And like, we could be perfect and not know. It's just that it's tainted now with that deception, that now we have a natural bent to know, and our brains will fill in what we don't know. And I think that's the thing. We have an option for truth, and we will opt to fill in gaps, whether they're true or not. Yeah, somebody had to do it. It couldn't have been just that. You don't think it's just that?
I mean, so many of them, right? 9/11 was a hoax. The moonwalk we didn't land on the moon. JFK was multiple people, or was the Illuminati. It was, just go on and on and on. The guy who just got sued and lost for hundreds of millions of dollars. The Sandy Hook was a hoax. They didn't really shoot him. Right. CGI. I mean, it goes on and on and on. But the thing about it is, because we do hide stuff, and because even the government has hidden stuff from the people, there's always, it's possible. It's possible the government's keeping something from us. Right. There's some plausibility. It's not like it's completely out of the question. They could be doing it. I mean, and that sort of fuels the fire to a certain extent, because that could happen. And things of that. So, but the funny thing is, the Illuminati was actually real. Like, it was a real group, 17th century, but nevertheless, it was started by a law professor and a former Jesuit. And it's interesting how he tried to model it as a replacement for Christianity, right? So the Enlightenment was supposed to be replacing Christianity with human reasoning. Like, now I see it. Now I'm better than you because I see these three things, or I understand it. And that's why I call it Illuminati. Enlightened means I'm more enlightened than you. I see that you can possibly know. That was sort of their whole reason for being, to improve humankind, was sort of their thrust. And when you try to do that, I think what you're going to end up with is, first of all, error and mass confusion, but also you're going to have people who are like-minded, like other philosophers and other people going to say, that kind of fits more with where I am. Like, faith stuff is like, it's all right, but like, we can think our way to understand. We can reason our way, and we can look and remove this in logical deduction, and that would appeal to, especially academics and people of that nature. Sure. Would appeal to them, and it did appeal to them. And so the Illuminati actually did operate for some time until it was banned. It was starting in Bavaria, and the Bavarian government eventually said, no more secret societies. Right. Banished the leader Weishaupt, whatever his name was. But so then now people will come and say, well, they didn't really disband. It was on the ground. They're still operating in the shadows. Right. And sort of that whole crazy thing. But it's just interesting when you're reading about that. It actually was people actually thought that was something that they could do. And of course, the Illuminati have been credited with like the French Revolution and JFK assassination. And then if you take it down to today, part of what Kyrie and what Kanye West were trying to say was, I'm enlightened. I know something you don't. Let me show you this thing that I know that you can't possibly understand. I got to show it to you. And sort of they got caught up in that whole thing, which has turned out to be not good for them. But I think it's not. I mean, I think that whole conspiracy theory thing is not good for society in general.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I think you're right. I mean, it's definitely not good for society in general. But I think when you look at the modern Beyonce's, Jay-Z, Drake's, they're part of the Illuminati. I mean, I'm not sure who's not today. If you get wealthy enough, that you're part of the Illuminati. Listen, I think that the truth of the matter is part of, at least here, and in certain cultures in America, part of the belief in the Illuminati is such that I think it responds to ceilings that are, whether those ceilings are real or not, there are certain ceilings that are perceived to be there in certain cultures, right? In certain areas. Mm-hmm. And I think that, with wealth and with prosperity around in the proximity, I think it's difficult for some people to try to figure out, how is it possible for me not to have this? And sometimes conspiracy theories actually help soothe in some ways. I get it. That's a setup right there. Remember, Donald Trump actually soothed himself long before he actually lost the election. If I don't lose, it's going to be, let me sow the conspiracy that will be able to really be my cocoon. So in some ways, the answer to the great mystery of my success or lack of success, conspiracy theories work there. In some ways, it's like, why her? We applaud when you're Destiny's Child, but there's a point when you become a multi-millionaire that, okay, that's all right. Things begin to change. We can still be a fan. But once you become, a billionaire, in some ways you're out of our league, and people start looking for reasons to like why you've been chosen to be special. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of this is money. When you look at the conspiracy theories, it's really a group of people who don't have that, who are trying to figure out how they have it. And it must be favor with the gods. They must have been a blood sacrifice. They had to. Why did these stars die? Well, there had to be a sacrifice. Yeah, they killed a baby in the back room, and so that Prince would actually, put out his last album. I mean, the idea that people are like, yeah, that's real. And they made $100 million off of that. And that's real. They killed a baby. I mean, like, we didn't hear about it, but they're just killing babies left and right, and like nobody hears about it. So I think it's really trying to explain the unknown. If you take it back where you started, I think this is one of the curses that happens now in now dealing with that which God is saying, you don't need to know. Not knowing is a part of humanity. That's what makes us, humans and not God. We were designed to not know everything. And so because now we have to know everything, we create now. Well, why do you think they're sick? I mean, they're pouring stuff in the water. Taste the water. Water's tasting different. And people are like, you know what? The water is tasting different. It's like, you didn't drink any tap water. Like, what are you talking about? The reason you stopped drinking tap water is because, it was cheaper to go get the water over there. However that thing works, the reality is we're open to conspiracy theories, and we're open to bringing down the people that we lifted up. That's the crazy thing, that all these people that are, Drake and they sold their soul to the devil. All these people are people that we actually helped boost to get to the places that they are, gave them the name. And it's the natural nature of man to, like, once you get there on top of the ladder, to kind of hate you now that you're there, and to figure out that the devil must have gotten you there.
Yeah, I think to one of your earlier points, knowledge can be a burden. Like, we think that knowledge is freeing, but sometimes knowing something is like, I wish I didn't know that. Like, there's things we know that we wish we didn't know, things we see, things that we've seen. I wish I never saw that. The saying, as a can unsee that. Like, there's some things that we shouldn't see. And when you see it, it just becomes a burden on you. And so that's for sure. And the other part is we love to try to explain things that either or have no explanation that's obvious, or we don't understand. So if I don't understand it, then I'm just going to fill in the blanks with just it's something else going on, right? Because she can't really sing, so it must be that she did something else. And there's something else. We go to the craziest place because it couldn't just be that somebody just liked her, or somebody saw something in her, or somebody
marketing, good music, good sound man.
Yeah, I mean, auto-tune,
Yeah.
the right backing vocals, the right backing instruments,
right?
The right songs that kind of flow with their voice. I mean, none of that. Like nobody's working hard, nobody's doing anything. It's just like, nope, we just back here burning stuff up, and then we're good. Like, we're not doing anything else. She's not working on her voice. She's not trying to perfect her craft. She's not doing any of that. She's just showing up with the dead rabbits.
Right.
We good. I mean, we straight. I mean, and that sort of mindset is very dangerous, especially when you try to attribute that to a group, because now you're sowing distrust and discord among groups. Again, one of the reasons why Jewish people hate the idea that they're secretly hiding something, because it genders hatred for them. Like them Jews, they're the reason I didn't get the loan. They're the reason I can't afford my house payment. They're the reason. So you get blamed when you're supposed to be the person that's controlling it. You get blamed for everything. We have a downturn in the economy. Jews did it. Right. We have something else that they did it. They're controlling it. They're trying to make it so we have to do this, and they want us to do this. They want us to buy a certain kind of food. So it's just like, and so they're looking at it and saying we're not doing anything, and this hatred that's coming at us because of these conspiracy theories isn't just unfair. It's downright dangerous.
Absolutely. And it's you know what? I mean, I think a lot of it is also the fact that it's unfounded. The truth is, we need to operate in truth, right? We need to accuse people and then bring forth facts. And I think this defamation, that comes, I think that's the damaging place where we are in a society where you can actually bring a person down. You can actually put a narrative out there that really has legs, that will really get around the world and then circle the globe several times without one shred of evidence, without anybody saying, well, like, is that confirmed? I mean, like, did he really sell his soul to the devil? Like, there's a contract out there. It's like, it's got his name on it. It's like, did anybody post it on the internet? Like, was it on Twitter? Like, where is the blood contract? It's like, it's signed, trust me. So boycott him from this point on. Then it's weird that rational people are kind of wide open not to believe that, like, he's an economist and he may have made a mistake about the downturn. They're really willing to say the devil whispered in his ear. That's a weird thing for us, that we really are open to, but that's again part of the curse, right? That suspicious nature opens us up, and our wickedness. Our reality is so crazy. The things that we've actually done, like, giving people diseases and not telling them and thinking that there was something. We've done so many crazy things that it would be. That's why people look and say there is an Area 51. I'm telling you, there's a big head Martian somewhere out there with huge eyes. With telepathy. Why? Because the government has hidden so many things. We had secret bases. Where we found, we'll declassify it. Yeah, we did have secret bases where we take people and like do bad stuff to them. And like, nobody knew what they were doing in Guantanamo Bay. So once our truths are out, like, you're really doing that? You really have people doing that? How can you look and say, well, that's impossible, that there would be a group? With our history with the church, even the Vatican, has been so shadowy. So our reality, the truth of the matter is, we really don't need conspiracy theories. Our reality is so crazy. We really need to deal with our reality. Like, Donald Trump was real. He was real. Whether there was some other crazy entity out there that we're fighting about that we didn't know, the dude with the red hat, he was crazy enough. Kanye, the truth is, Kanye, slavery was a choice. That sounded like a choice. 400 years. That sounded like a choice to me. Listen, that reality right there, that's enough to deal with on its face.
Yeah. Well, with the conspiracy theory, I mean, I guess if you are someone who likes them or wants to spread them, the beauty of it is you don't need any proof. I don't need a shred of proof. You have to disprove me. Prove to me that there's no aliens. Prove to me that we really didn't let them. Prove to me that Jews are not controlling the banking system. Prove it. I'll just throw it out there, and then you got to disprove it. Otherwise, I'm like, I stand on my ground and say this actually is happening. This actually is the truth.
Well, here's the thing. I think even a much more dangerous thing is that people can prove it, right? Here's the thing: people can prove it with fake information, right? People are they're so comfortable. Let me give you the name of the top 20 bank. They own the banks in the world, and they're like your name, and it's like Joseph Stein and Menachem, Menachem. So before you know it, okay, so all of a sudden it's like Jewish, Fetterman, Jewish, Friedman, Jewish, and you got all these names that they've just created, and they put the Zurich Bank, and people look and say it's right here. Like they never check it at all. So if you take it back to that very same thing that you talked about with the Garden of Eden, man, this is really what's going to open people up to such great deception. I mean, because people don't fact check anything. As many lies that have gone across the internet, people still aren't checking things. They're literally posting things and putting up things and saying, no, it's here right now. He was the one who killed him. And it's like, he died 4 years ago. Like, what are you talking? He got killed 4 years ago. What are you talking about? He killed the guy yesterday. And so people will circulate and say, that's him. And like, I remember, because I went to school with him. It's like, no, you didn't. It's a crazy world.
No, it is a crazy world. And, because when you're trying to operate as an illuminated one, an enlightened person, there's not actually an expected outcome. It's simply enlightenment for the sake of enlightenment. Let me show you how great I am. There's no what's the benefit to society to saying that? Even if it was true, what's the point of saying Jews are running a banking system? And what's the point? Like, what's the expected outcome? There isn't one. It's all about you. It's not even about them. It's about you showing off you.
I think, though, there is an expected outcome. I think the expected outcome is for you to begin to hate the Jews.
Well, that would be one. Yeah, that would be one expected outcome.
I think in the end, the conspiracy is really because what happened. How do you feel about the person who's withheld this information? You remember, you're going back to again what you use in terms of the garden. The issue was going to for Eve to feel a different way about God, right? The whole goal here is for her to now separate herself from God, not God separate from her, but her separate herself from God, right? This was meant for us, okay? Blacks, we need to separate ourselves from these Jews, okay? And so each group that sees it and that has these conspiracy theories, we have to separate ourselves from these Blacks. We have to separate ourselves from these Mexicans. And so all of it is really about division and separation, because once we realize it's a conspiracy, that they're doing this, and none of the conspiracies are good. Like, nobody's really and they're conspiring to make sure that each one of us get, $100,000 at the end of the year. They're conspiring to make sure there's a chicken in every pot. We don't actually get any of those conspiracies. So the conspiracies are always negative, and you're not going to have positive feelings about people who are controlling the judiciary system. You tell me that this group is controlling it, and this number of people are going to prison. How am I supposed to? What am I going to think about them? Oh, I see. Now it's starting to make sense. New slavery, and boom, now you have it. So now every judge is a part of the new Jim Crow. Versus some real here's the crack laws were probably bad. A lot of guns out here. Some of that Johnny did it. Some real life stuff instead of that was Illuminati. No, it was Johnny. He got caught with the 245s. That was his goal. Yeah, that was his goal. Yeah, but still, how would they know it if they weren't supposed to? They weren't supposed to be spying on them like that in the first place.
Right. So when I was talking about, we're talking about specifically Kyrie earlier. So expected outcomes. So the people who made the movie that he linked to, that might have been their expected outcome, or was it Kyrie's?
Right.
It wasn't Kyrie's. Kyrie was just trying to show off how enlightened he was. He wasn't trying to do what they're trying to do. He got caught up in the mix trying to make that happen. Well, he did promote. I mean, by linking to it and showing his enlightenment, he participated in it, but I do not think that was his expected outcome. I don't think he cares whether one way or the other. I think he wanted the spotlight on him. He wasn't worried about the other stuff that came later, that came his way later. I mean, I think he was surprised by it. It shouldn't be, but you should know what's going to happen when you do that. But he seemed surprised by the backlash.
Yeah, I think he was. I think he was surprised by the backlash, because I didn't think that he expected that the backlash would be there. I don't think he's an ignorant guy. I think he thought he was just retweeting something and didn't recognize what retweeting means. You know, I mean, you're endorsing it. You know, when you retweet it, you know, it's just, I mean, that's just the cyber world, right?
Yep.
There was a time when you retweeted where you just were saying, oh, you know, you didn't know, good or bad, right? Right. Initially, when that was happening, it was just like you may be showing it and saying, and maybe not even leaving a comment. But now everybody knows, like if you retweet it, if you share it, you're actually endorsing it. You're saying you like it. It's going to come up with your name connected to it. So he knows that. I think his mentality was that this will educate. The mentality of Kanye was that will educate. But the mentality of the Black Panthers was this will educate. So at the end of the day, each person is trying to educate. But if the basis is hatred, then it becomes dangerous, because you're educating people in hatred and potential falsehood, supremacy.
Yeah, and I think and it's really potentially dangerous when you sort of spin these things so that people then tend to blame all their misfortune on someone else. Like,
yes,
you get the job, I didn't get the job.
Right.
I didn't get this, why I didn't, who's running this thing. And so people don't take any personal accountability. Well, we're a society that's sort of going away from personal accountability anyway. But this is just one more nail in the coffin of, you know what, I didn't interview well. You know what, that I wasn't really qualified for the job. Or, you know what, I just made a mistake. That was on me. I didn't have my application together. My loan didn't go through. It's like, they could have overlooked that. They could have gave me a break. They could have, but you know how they are. I mean, and that sort of mentality sort of just poisoned our whole society, which is I think it's something that has happened and is happening now, where our society is poisoned against certain groups. And you don't even know them. Like people don't even know people, these other groups are like, you know how they are. Like, how do you know? You don't know any of them. You don't know them. You never met them. You haven't talked to them. You don't know. I think one of the side benefits of having kids and they go to school is you interact with a bunch of people who you have at least one common interest. You have a kid in school. And so the things you tend to talk about are those things, right? School, and what's going on in school and that. And I think it sort of levels it out, and sort of you understand that you might have agree with them on every single thing. We might have some disagreements, personally, whatever. But on some level, we're all on the same boat. We all want to, we're all here to get the best for our kids. We're all here to sort of see what's going on with our kids. And then that's sort of like, it doesn't matter what race or ethnicity or even what religion they are.
Right.
We're all, in the same spot. I think we don't have enough of that in this country where people see themselves as, we're on the same spot. Like if I'm struggling, some people across ethnicities and all, people struggling. Right. It has nothing to do with me being black or white or whatever. And I think, but people tend to attribute that to something else to make themselves feel like, what else could I have done? I did everything I could do, and it's just somebody, they just pulled the rug out from under.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then listen, I think on one hand, I think you're totally correct. I think on the other hand, is that, when you have that togetherness, I think there is a place where people are together. I mean, if you had a situation like Katrina, right? I would imagine that it puts people on an even keel. Now it doesn't, but like not at night, because some of your fears now are still there. Our togetherness, what we connect upon, is there, and like we're all at the college, together, and it's like all of our kids are freshmen. We're there for the first time. That's absolutely cool. But now some of our fears are still there. So the idea of, okay, if my fears are of, Black people, then I'm certainly going to still look and say, okay, I'm just looking and I didn't see a lot of security here, So even though we're all cool, some of our fears are still there. If the issue would be, white people, I'm just, you're here and you're around, there's no other Black people in the room. And I'm just wondering how you're going to be, right? Even though we're all together, we live together, we have those fears that are tucked in us, that society has conveniently placed in us, that really keep us divided, which is why people from all walks of life will come out to a Black Lives Matter rally and chant all manner of things, be angry and throw rocks. And even though like they live next door to, to a guy who they carpool with, who they like, but like underneath there's an undercurrent of anger. There's an undercurrent of anger with this person who has, deals with this blog about, white power. Because there's an undercurrent. Even though we connect, it's where we don't connect, which is where the danger is. It's where we disconnect. We have about 6 or 7 connections, but we've got about 20 areas of disconnect.
I think that,
and those, I'm not saying they're real areas. I think they're created areas. Conspiracy mentality kind of sets that up where they don't really love you. They don't really like you. They don't really understand you. On all sides, Asians, the Asians have it with other Asians. You remember how they were during the war? They're not like us. Their history's not like us. They're not clean people. All of those things are really swirling around that though we high five, I think it's already kind of set up a difference of, he's cool, man. I'm not going to eat over there. But he's a nice guy. I mean, I wouldn't date his sister. But you know what I mean? He's cool though. And like we kind of fist bump and live with that. And it's like, good job. Obviously we're not socializing, right? When you're not going to be on the bowling team, not you, because you're a Sikh. So we're not going to do that. But I do like working with you. You're one of the nicest guys I know. And I think that's racism in America. And our conspiracy theories kind of help bolster those very same things.
Well, I think the sum of all of our fears sort of manifest in a way that you see somebody you don't know and they're just a faceless they're part of that group, and so you attribute certain things to them. Right. When you're in the same boat with somebody, you get to know the person, and that to some it depends on the person. Some of that may transfer to other people who are like you, but sometimes it won't. I think you're probably right. Probably the majority of the time it does not translate. Right? They know that he's cool, but these guys over here, I don't know about them. Right? Because you're still he's an outlier. So I know him, he's an outlier, but I don't know these guys, and so they're not. So I think there's definitely some of that, but I think the conspiracy theories and those things of that nature, racism and all that kind of stuff, I think reduces people to nameless, faceless characters. And you throw the things on them and like, that's who they are. And so you darn right I'm crossing the street when I see them coming. You know, I'm cutting my bag and I'm making sure, where's my wallet again? When I see them, that's what it is. And some of it's conscious, I think some of it's unconscious. But absolutely, that those are for sure things that they're having is sad. But I think it's the reality of the multicultural, racial world, country that we live in. I think that's sort of what we deal with on a day-to-day basis. Here's a couple of comments.
Okay.
See, we got Clarice says, I have a family member who talks all the time about these theories. He recently told me there is no death. So literally, any conspiracy theory you can think of, you can go on the internet and you can find a group that is in support of that. I mean, I just did a quick search for conspiracy theories, and it's like the list is endless. It's just so many. It's literally endless. The number of conspiracies, and so I've seen conspiracy theories where Beyonce's dead and they replaced her with something else, or she's really this, or the people that died. I mean, I've seen all kinds of crazy stuff.
Holograms.
Yeah. Another guy, Vangelis Gibson says, conspiracy theories have literally destroyed what is truth by design. It has changed our belief system. It drives emotions and dangerous actions. Storming the Capitol on January 6th. The election was stolen. COVID ain't real. Vaccine going to make you a zombie. Hillary Clinton holding kids in pizza parlor. Crazy. Yeah, that's like 1/10 of 1% of all the crazy stuff. That these are crazy, but yeah, absolutely, those are the kind of crazy things that are out there, which is why we,
But let's, you know what? But I think that, to her point, I mean, in history, people have acted upon these conspiracy theories. There's a place where they stay in the ether and they're kind of in the thought realm. But
right.
When you look at January 6th, when you look at the Holocaust, when you look, these were based upon conspiracy theories. The Jews were the ones who really were the ones who caused the depression in Europe and what's causing what's going on now in what was causing what's going on in Germany. So a conspiracy theory really brought about the annihilation of 6 million people. January 6th, we were this close to having the government overthrown, and that was as a result of they're trying to hijack the election. There's been, there's a conspiracy that, they've been stuffing ballots, and we almost got to, people died there. So, these conspiracy theories that they're kind of laughable and kind of fun and light in some areas. And truth of the matter is they breed distrust, and distrust will eventually breed violence. And I think that's, when you look at, what the comment was about, COVID. There are people who literally died because of the conspiracy. They just wouldn't put their arm out. And I'm just gonna wait. I'm just not believing it because I know what they're putting in. I hear they're gonna be sterile, and then it's like he died. And that was that's a major cause for I don't want to hear any truth. I will disavow any science. I'll just go with my conspiracies. And people are dying as a result of that.
Absolutely, and I think that when it came, for example, the example just came with for the COVID vaccines. There's waiting just to see. This is wait and see a minute and see what happens, and then there's just this crazy stuff where it's going to do something. Not that it doesn't work, but that it's actively going to do something to you that you don't want to have happen. I think those are completely two different.
And it's intentional.
Absolutely intentional.
There's a chip in there that's they're gonna put a chip in you and control you. It's mind control. And it's like, Dr. Fauci, CDC.
I never mind that it was COVID the first vaccine. It's not that we don't have 100 other vaccines.
Right.
Flu, polio, shingles. Numbers of vaccines that people take every day. But this one, you can't get this because this one's even though they said this is based on other vaccines, it came out of the ether. So it's like, this is based on other vaccines that we developed for other things. People still didn't want to believe it.
Right.
And wanted to believe that there was some grand conspiracy to sicken people or control people or do other kinds of things. And again, to your point about, the government did intentionally let people get syphilis to study the effects of syphilis on people. They did that happen. Now, it wasn't that long ago. Those kinds of things are unhelpful in terms of convincing people that the government's not doing it, but you still got to be able to separate sort of one from the other. Yes, that happened. That doesn't mean that we're still doing that kind of stuff, nor does it mean that this particular vaccine or whatever it is, medicine or whatever, is going to be harmful. So the idea that I'm just going to dismiss all modern medicine because I don't think, I think it's a conspiracy to keep us under control is just like, how does that make any sense?
Right.
Especially
and it's different between a choice. If you choose, like people who say, listen, I don't want the vaccine. I just don't, I do that. That's no different than not taking the flu vaccine, right? But it's just when there's a conspiracy around it, and when there's an addition that's added to it that brings about fear, that brings about suspicion. It's really now suspicion for nothing. It's fear for nothing. There's a lot of stuff in this world of fear. Why create monsters? We've got some real ones. We really live in a land where there's some real monsters here. How wild is it that we create new monsters? And here's the thing: when you fight created monsters, you're not going to fight the real monsters. The real enemies that we have. What a great trick of the enemy to have us fighting fake enemies, beating the air, fighting ghosts and things that are not there, when the things that are actually there we are literally we're missing. They're the real things that are happening, which is how the Antichrist is going to slip up on us because we'll believe in a lie. I remember looking at that scripture that said, people wanting to believe a lie. Like I was like, who would want to believe a lie? Since you wanted to believe a lie, I'll go ahead and give you over to it. It's like, well, who wants to believe a lie? When you look at conspiracy theorists, it is really people who I don't want that truth. Here's the film. You see him standing on that's not the moon. So they really want to believe a lie. I'd rather believe this. I'll explain this one to you. And there are people who can explain the conspiracy theory who cannot explain the truth.
Yeah. It's crazy because then you have all these videos of people saying, I wish I had taken the vaccine. Now, as they're dying from COVID, because they refuse to take it. It's like, so you're dying for nothing, essentially. You're dying,
especially if it's over the conspiracy. If you decided not to take it for whatever reason, for your other rational reasons, I don't like those. I don't believe in vaccines. Okay, you don't believe it. That's a different belief. But now to assume I'm not taking it because I'm not getting the chip. They're not going to radiate me. I know what they're trying to do, make me sterile. I'm still trying to have 2 more kids. I mean, so now that person has really gone into a place that's dangerous for them because you can make a choice and be wrong. But to now be led to a false choice, that's where the danger is. To literally press a button that's not there, to choose an option that's not on the ballot, that's where that person. Okay, now that's crazy. I choose Z, and it's like it's only A, B, and
C. That's a good way to put it. That's an excellent way to put it. Man, that is too crazy. And man, we're over time. We have 2 more comments, and then we're gonna get out of here.
Okay.
Let's see. We have Keisha says, "We're headed that way, wanting to believe a lie." Yeah, we're there.
Absolutely,
we're there. Because people are still believing that the 2020 election was stolen. Not people living in the mountains somewhere. These are people who in Congress, people who are hold elected positions, saying no.
Some people who counted the ballots.
It was stolen.
Some people who were responsible for counting the ballots. I mean, this guy won, but I'm telling you, there's got to be 28 more votes. I don't know where they are, but there are. Because he couldn't have won.
But you remember that right after they said there was widespread election fraud, and people were like, "Cool, so it's the proof that we can correct the errors and get it right."
Right.
Crickets. Never happened. Crickets. Last comment. Well, the Antichrist is in Turkey. Oh man.
Well, I'm glad to know that. I've been on the Antichrist watch, so I'm not going to Turkey. Where he is. Maybe they'll do it like they do Santa Claus, where it's like, well, he's
the tracker.
Yeah, the little Santa Claus tracker.
Antichrist tracker.
Antichrist is over Turkey right now.
Oh man.
We've got a long way to go, brother.
Yeah.
We got a long way to go.
Yeah, but man, great conversation.
Yes, sir.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I did
thank
too.
You to everyone who popped on, made comments, watched. Listen, you can get replays of all of our shows. This is 19, so all 19 will be on our Facebook or YouTube page. You can go back and watch some old episodes. You can make comments on them. We'll answer the comments or respond to the comments there if you wish. But certainly thank you. And we'll be back again next week, 7 o'clock, with another topic or series of topics. I hope you'll come back and join us, and that you'll join in and make some input. We love having input from people who are watching. It just makes the show to me more interesting and more interactive. So again, thanks again for everyone who tuned in and participated. Thank you.
Appreciate the conversation.
Yep. All right. So thank you, everyone. Good night. God bless.